McCain. I'm the chair of the Sustainability Commission, so welcome all to the March meeting of the City of Flagstaff Sustainability Commission. I'm glad that you all could come. A special welcome to our Neighborhood Sustainability Grant recipients. Looking forward to hearing your reports on the important work that you've done. And now I'd like to move to the roll call. So commissioners, please unmute yourselves and indicate your presence as I call your name. Chair McCain, present. Vice Chair White.
Present.
Commissioner Steiger.
Present.
Commissioner Daly. Commissioner Kunkel. Commissioner McCormick.
Present.
Okay, and I will read our vision, mission, and land acknowledgement. So starting with our vision. The City of Flagstaff is a culture and community that thrives in response to the climate crisis. And our mission is to advise sustainability section staff on matters related to climate and sustainability, support community projects through neighborhood sustainability grants, and provide feedback to the City Council on sustainability issues. And thirdly, I would like to read our land acknowledgement. The Flagstaff City Council humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home. Next is item 4, which is public comment. At this time, any member of the public may address the commission on any subject within their jurisdiction that is not scheduled before the commission on that day. Due to open meeting laws, the commission cannot discuss or act on items presented during this portion of the agenda. To address the commission on an item that is on the agenda, please use the Teams chat function. Simply type in public comment to indicate to the chair that you would like to comment. The chair will then recognize you when it is time for public comment, and staff will unmute your microphone if needed. So, do we have any public comment? Hearing none, I'd like to move on to item number 5, which is the approval of our April 28th, 2022 minutes. Commissioners, any comments on those minutes or a motion for approval?
This is Commissioner McCormick. I move to approve the minutes.
All right, so we have a motion from Commissioner McCormick to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Steiger. I second.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Steiger. So we have a motion to approve the minutes from our April meeting put forward by Commissioner McCormick, seconded by Commissioner Steiger. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I would like to bring the motion to a vote. So we have a motion to approve our April 28th, 2022 minutes. The motion was put forward by Commissioner McCormick, seconded by Commissioner Steiger. Commissioners, please unmute yourselves, and all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Okay, the motion passes. Thank you, commissioners. So now moving to our first business item, item 6A, the Neighborhood Sustainability Grant final reports. And I'll pass things over to our Neighborhood Sustainability Grant staff specialist, Marissa, and it's all yours.
Thank you, Chair McCain, and thank you to all of our grant recipients who are here presenting tonight. We are so happy to have you here. Just a reminder, you have 5 minutes to present. I will give you a 1-minute warning when we get to that point. Please introduce yourself when you begin speaking. And Jenna Ortega is assisting me tonight with your presentation materials, so go ahead and let Jenna know when you are ready to advance your slide. After your presentation, I will pass it back to Chair McCain for questions, and we will move on to the next presenter. To start us off, we have Darian Benally. Darian, are you here?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Great. Let's give Jenna just a moment to get your presentation materials up, and then you can start. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so I'll go ahead and begin by stating my name. So my name is Darian Benally. I am a Flagstaff community member. I was born and raised here for the past 25 years. I currently work for the Colorado Plateau Foundation as a communications manager. So my project for the Neighborhood Sustainability Grant Program was Indigenous Health and Resilience through balcony gardening. So this project mainly came out of the response to shortages that we were seeing in grocery stores and throughout Native nations across the country. Everybody was moving to more localized agriculture, and everyone was sort of recalling a time of Indigenous abundance before we were put on reservations, before our lands were disturbed by contamination and lack of access. So during this time period, many community members felt that it was a struggle to access healthy, adequate, nutritious foods for themselves, for their families, for their communities. So that's sort of where this idea was born from, and also playing off that sort of ancestral connection, right? We always often hear, you know, the Three Sisters planting method. Our communities are so much more diverse than that. There's so many different ways that agriculture unfolds within Indigenous communities. Of course, here in the Southwest, we mainly support ourselves by growing dry corn, which relies on minimal rainfall and specifically adapted seeds. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump into it. So what you're seeing here is a photo of one of our seed starting projects for this program. Our community members sort of didn't know where the first place to start was. So we decided to really kind of hold their hand throughout the process and not really jump into the big show, which was getting that balcony garden kit to them. So first we had to start small and understand how the seeds are actually growing. Next slide, please. Right, so like I said, the project aimed to promote food security, and I was going to help achieve this by providing 15 Native American families throughout the Flagstaff area with these gardening kits. So these were all-inclusive gardening kits with a watering system bay underneath all of the soil on top. So what would happen is the roots will actually drop the soil from the bottom. So the idea was for the soil to be saturated through the bottom, and this is pretty unique for a growing kit because it's usually a top water system, but there's worries with those top water systems of things like root rot, as well as evaporation during the summer months. So on the the left-hand side, we'll see a fully utilized growing kit. It looks like they have some tomatoes in there, maybe some flowers, different types of squash, different varieties of different foods. I believe this was a multi-family household, but the idea behind these planting kits was to make it portable, make it accessible for families that have a lack of growing space, a small space, maybe they're renters and they can't place anything permanent. Maybe they need something that's going to be able to take with them when they move out of their home. On the right-hand side, that's a picture of our kit distribution. So folks were asking questions about the seedlings, how to plant, getting advice on how many seeds they can plant. Lots of folks were really excited when they saw the little squash blooms, but we informed them that most of the time you can mainly only grow one type of squash per box, and maybe if you're lucky, get away with a tomato. So folks are able to ask lots of questions, build rapport with the Lasting Indigenous Families Enrichment Program at Native Americans for Community Action. So that's the nonprofit that I paired up with to make this project a success.
1 minute
and all
remaining.
15 kits, thank you, all 15 kits were distributed. Next slide, please. So there was a lot of success throughout it. Community members felt that they were able to access this pretty readily. They thought the information was easy to learn. They loved the hands-on experience. Next slide, please. some outlooks and reflections. So this was a small scale. It can be replicated again. Unfortunately, due to lack of funding for the program, this was offered as a supplemental sort of enrichment to the main programming for the LIFE program at NACA. And unfortunately, that program is no longer going to be sustained. So there will unfortunately not be a huge sustainability outlook for this program, but it can be replicated, which was the really, I think, the most successful part. And with that, I will end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Okay, hearing none. I will go ahead and pass it over to Superyard Farms. Oakley Anderson Moore, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Great, you can go ahead and begin.
Okay. My name is Oakley Anderson Moore. I'm a filmmaker and a farmer who runs Superyard Farms, and our project is called the Dry Greens Project. So the point of our project was to trial several varieties of foods that could be eaten as greens, like spinach, like lettuce, but that were drought tolerant. And we trialed a bunch of different things, probably like we dedicated 8 different 30-inch market size rows to the dry greens. And 4 varieties really excelled in their productivity, how quickly they grew, how much input they needed, how much they were susceptible to pests, as well as how well they tasted and how beautiful they were. And so the 4 pictures, the 4 groups on here are the 4 varieties that we grew last growing season and selected. And so on the top left, you've got magenta lamb's quarters. That one thrived and did really well. It's related to all lamb's quarters that we are probably familiar with seeing, but it has a beautiful magenta in the middle. On the lower left was the Chamosal saltbush, which is a type of Atriplex hortensis, which is in the saltbush family that comes from Chamosal, New Mexico. And it did really well. As you could see, there's the leaves were so giant, they were even bigger than the purple saltbush, which on the upper right you can see also did really well. We trialed even selling that at the farmer's market and trying to put it on people's radar. And then on the bottom lower right is the Hopiday Amaranth, which is obviously being grown in northern Arizona for hundreds of years and is already relatively drought tolerant, and it did very well in our Flagstaff climate. All 4 of these were on drip lines, so we could control how much water and measure how much water they were getting, and also it helped. We did have, unlike the 2 seasons leading up to this, we did have a really good monsoon season, so that probably helped as well. And all 4 of these made it through, and we rogued out any varieties that were showing anything weird, and we selected those seeds. And you can actually go to the next slide. So the next part of it was, we saved all the plants, marked them for seed saving, and then we went through the process of saving all the seeds from those 4 varieties, which another cool thing about them is that they had, they all produced thousands of seeds. So we had a good time saving all those, and I was able to recruit our Cultivate interns from the Kinlani dorm to help us to save all those varieties. And then the final thing we did is to get it out to the public. And so you can go to the next slide, or my final slide. So what we did is, as we had said we were going to do, we created a coloring book. And the coloring book on the very last page has a packet of each of the 4 dry greens that was so successful. And inside the coloring book, we had a story and a drawing for each dry green. And the story was either cultural in nature or nutritional in nature, actually both for the most part. And we collaborated with Jaranez, who did most of the artwork and did an amazing job, as well as Meg Caboti, who even did contributed drawing of her grandmother using Hopiday Amaranth to color Peaky bread. And so far we've distributed over 150 coloring books with 4 packets of seeds in there each. So that's over 600 coloring books. We did an event with APS at their Arbor Day celebration. We distributed coloring books at the Flagstaff Food Links seed swap. We we're at the plant sale. All of the Cultivate interns at Kinlani Dorm got coloring books, and I'm excited to say that Lowell Observatory's Native American Astronomy Outreach Program summer camp will be using this as one of their textbooks. So this will be going to 70 elementary. Okay, we'll be going to 70 elementary students who are learning about drought tolerant growing as it relates on Navajo Nation. So they'll be using this summer. And we also in early August, I think on August 3rd, we'll actually be having a coloring book event at Bookman's where we'll have Jaranez and May Kabodi there in person to sign the coloring books, and I'll be on hand to talk about what the dry greens are and to just keep on furthering the story of the project. So far it's been really successful. It was successful growing. It's been very successful getting these into the community, and I'm really excited to follow and hopefully see people's documentation of Flagstaff community members growing these dry greens themselves. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation and your work. Commissioners, do we have any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to the Azalea project. And I believe there was concern about internet connection, so this one is a video. However, the grant recipient is available for questions. Jenna, if you haven't already, you can hit play whenever.
I have Marissa. Let's see what's going on. It is paused on my end too. So please just give me a second, everyone, and I will try to get it worked out.
Sure thing. Thank you, Jenna.
Hi. Hi, my name is Darren Bingham, and thank you.
Jenna, I can pull that video up if your internet connection is a little unstable.
Sure, Marissa. Thank you. It keeps glitching out on my end.
Yeah, give me just a moment. Okay, thank you all for your patience. Oh, I think I need to share. Sorry, I need to share with computer audio. 1 second.
Hi, my name is Darren Bingham, and thank you for being here for the presentation for the sustainability program and the neighborhood sustainability grants for the city of Flagstaff. My name is Darren Bingham, and I will be talking directly about the collaboration that happened between Region Consulting Services, Willow Bend Environmental Education Center, and the Azalea project.
Marissa, could you turn it up a little bit more?
A curriculum was developed and taught to different students and different age groups. And then with that, a grant was written to the city to essentially provide students recycling bins so that they can properly recycle within the city. As we all know, the city has switched its colors to be blue for recycling and gray for landfill, but also darker colors are usually used for landfill. And so this grant was actually used to help students and schools across the city do this. This is several years now that this has happened. And this year, We are very proud that we were able to go to Kinsey Elementary School, located off of Lone Tree, which is near the Willow Bend Environmental Education Center. And with the grant we got, we were able to provide 52 recycling bins, as well as 52 recycling and landfill signage bins. We were able to collect, as you can see here, some of the older green bins and replace them with blue standardized bins with signage, as well as in my hand here in the picture, we have our landfill signage that we used, as well as you can see here on the recycling bin. This is the city-sponsored recycling that we decided to use. We also were able to go to the city, was also able to go to Marshall Elementary School, and we were able to do 63 recycling bins. It's a significantly bigger school. And so here we actually had help from a science teacher, which was really great because we had someone inside helping us. We also had someone at Kinsey help us. It was a science teacher as well. And so it's really good to have that partnership within the school. And then also at Marshall, we were able to provide 63 recycling and landfill bins. We also had a intern from the Oswego Project helping us, which was really great. And so with all of that, I want to provide a brief video that we made actually to talk about what we're doing here in the project.
My name is Darren Bingham, and I'm working with the Oswego Project Willow Bend Environmental Education Center, the City of Flagstaff, Arizona Community Foundation of Flagstaff, to bring about innovations in the waste systems of Northern Arizona. The City of Flagstaff has decided to revamp their dumpster and signage program to where they have uniform colors and signage across the city. Unfortunately, this is not done within the schools of Flagstaff because of the cost and the time. It just doesn't make sense. Additionally, when it comes to traditional education, typically individuals are just told what to do. They're not shown and given the tools by which to act out this education. And so this project that I'm doing has decided to solve these issues of uniformity across the recycling of schools as well as the signage. My job was to go around and look at schools' infrastructure, and if you look at them, it was everywhere. There was blue bins, pink bins, green bins for recycling. The signage was everywhere. Bins weren't paired, and so my job was to bring about blue standard recycling to the bins. I brought about signage that the city approved so that every bin had a marked signage, so every bin had signs. And then we additionally paired the landfill and the recycling bins together. We additionally made the locations next to the doors. This is really important to have standard locations, as well as having the landfill bin on the left and the recycling bin on the right, so the kids, and it's easy for everyone to use it. The reason why schools have some of the highest contamination rates of any building is because of the fact that there's not common education and uniformity across the program. And so with my solution-based thinking and implementation strategy, I brought about the whole school's integration, as well as I brought about the custodial staff, the admin, and the teachers who are strategic partners. I wanted to make sure that everyone was involved. I got bins for the hallways, I got custodial carts, and I made sure that everyone was a part of the solution so that when the integration was done and the intervention was over, the problem was solved.
Once again, I'd like to thank my community partners for this project. The City of Flagstaff provided funding, Willow Bend Environmental Center, Region Consulting, and Oswego Project all collaborated in going into the schools themselves and providing it. Super excited to see where this can lead us and look forward to answering any and all questions. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Okay, thank you. And I do believe we have a representative from the Azalea Project here tonight. I do want to thank you for being here. And do the commissioners have any questions? Okay, not hearing any. Thank you very much for being here and for your project. Our next presenter is the Sunnyside Neighborhood Association of Flagstaff.
Hi.
Hi, you may begin.
My name is Talene Corlin-Belka, and I'm the host of Learn, Know, and Grow on Sunnyside Radio, KSZN Radio. Learn, Know, and Grow is a radio show about sustainability and informs people about services, agencies, or organizations that can help in their situation. Learn, Know, and Grow also lets people know about their community and any events that might be going on. We've translated the show, and I only sent in a couple of pictures. And so the picture that I have now is the first slide is of Luis Avina. He is our translator. We've translated the show so that it can be heard by the Spanish-speaking community. Our translator, Luis, is a wildland firefighter, so he has taken a break to do that job, and we are currently talking to others about filling in for him while he is working. Usually the first thing people think about when they hear sustainability is recycling, climate change, and gardening tips. Although these are important subjects, they are but one aspect of living sustainably. As you know, living sustainably also means being able to eat, finding the right resources you need, or finding an outlet for the creative spirit that resides in each of us. I'm proud to say that Learn, Know, and Grow is still succeeding at this endeavor. And I've enjoyed hosting this program, and it has been an enlightening and exhilarating experience. The show started on August 23rd, 2021, and the first guest was Ramon from the city of Flagstaff. He came on to deliver information about Flagstaff's rebate and incentive program. This program covers everything from duct sealing, to water heaters to low flow toilets. It also has information about other rebate programs people can participate in. I considered this to be a great show to start with because Ramon was giving information about a way to get money. In today's world, that's valuable advice. Every guest I've had on the show has been excited to reach out to the community and share the information they have. While I'm welcoming new guests all the time, each guest that has been on the show is being invited back for several different reasons. It's a different season, and that's really important in some cases. And also because I want the guests to do a reiteration of their information. There have been some spectacular guests on the show. Sharon and Jennifer from Hope Cottage Shelter, Lindsay from Sharon's Attic, Renee Redday, who hosts Youth Open Mic, has been on. JB from the Flagstaff Family Food Center and Danny from the Pantry have both been guests. Dr. Tracy Moore from the NAU Dental Hygiene Program, and Wendy and Daryl have been on to speak about the mobile shower for the homeless. We featured Kaylee from the city of Flagstaff giving information about what can be recycled and what can't. And the Connection Trail has been on. It's a program looking for people with activities that don't promote drugs or alcohol. We've had Quality Connections, a show that teaches special needs people life and work skills. Court-appointed special advocates have been on. In the next few weeks, guests include people giving us tips on physical therapy and mindfulness. We featured gardening tips, housing, and conversations. The other picture I have is Claire from Big Brothers Big Sisters talking about their summer programs. And in the future, Learn, Know, and Grow will feature bicycle repair and cheap bikes, fire prevention, building relationships and their importance, and more gardening tips. All in all, the program has been successful and informative. Thank you for providing the opportunity to inform people of the great programs and services and organization that Sunnyside has to offer. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Sustainability Commissioners, do you have any questions? Go ahead, Vice Chair White. Did I see you unmute?
Oh, no, I didn't unmute.
Okay, my bad.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. We will go ahead and pass it to the Arboretum at Flagstaff.
Hello.
Hi, you may begin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Esplin. I work in the Horticulture and Research departments for the Arboretum of Flagstaff. Last year, I had the opportunity to work with Jason Fisher on his project, the High Desert Produce Garden, of which the Flagstaff Neighborhood Sustainability Grant helped to fund. Let's see. We can go to the next slide, please. So this garden was designed to instruct visitors on simple, sustainable solutions to the hardships of growing in the arid and high elevation environment of the Colorado Plateau. The key issues addressed include low percentage of organic soil matter, high UV exposure, short growing season, and drought-prone weather patterns. Volunteers and students learned these lessons through the following educational workshops. The first one, here you see the American Conservation Experience crew kind of laying the groundwork for the garden. They double dug raised beds to bust up the severely compacted soil 2 feet down, which was then lined with hardware cloth. We can go to the next slide. It was lined with hardware cloth, compost, and woody material before being filled back up with sifted dirt. Next slide, please. The hardware cloth protected plant roots from burrowing pests, and the added organic material added nutrients to the soil in the root zone. This also increased water holding capacity of the soil and added further frost protection through metabolic heat of decomposition, which is pretty cool. Next slide. This is actually a Master Gardener volunteer group. They are creating another set of beds that end up being these raised garden beds. They also helped us add composted mule manure from the Grand Canyon, and that was kind of like added to the surface as an early fertilizer boost, and also to emphasize the practice of local material use. Next slide, please. So here we see more of the volunteers adding things to the soil. This is also tilling and cover crops, which consisted of oats, clover, peas, and alfalfa. They're also starting to install the drip irrigation system here. We installed a slow rate drip tape irrigation with a early morning timer that would help to slowly saturate the soil with little to no runoff or water waste. This typically required 40 to 60% less water than using a hose or a sprinkler method of watering. Next slide, please. And right here, we have NAU Blue Key Honors Society students. They're planting seeds, they're dividing seed starts and learning about heirloom genetics and crop planning and the propagation of elevation hardy veggies. Next slide, please. This is a picture of our Three Sisters bed with the corn, beans, and squash. And you can see here that, and actually we can go to the next slide, that we had a really big challenge with the Artemisia in this bed. It was a constant battle. We like ran short of volunteers and staff, and we consistently needed hands in this garden. But we were also able to harvest some veggies, donate them. Staff was able to take food home, which was really cool. Next slide, please. And that's some corn and lots of artemisia. Next slide.
And we are at time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation and your project. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Yeah, and thank you, Jenna, for cycling through those. Okay, great. Well, our last presenter, our last grant recipient presenter for the evening is Threaded Together. Do we have a representative here?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, yes, you can go ahead and start.
Great. So yeah, we are a textile arts nonprofit here in Flagstaff, and we used our neighborhood sustainability grant to run a program specifically about sustainable sewing, quilting, and mending. And it was great because we really kind of encourage people in the community to look at something that's so close to them and so ubiquitous in their lives and think about it in a new way and think about it more sustainably. So the first thing that we did was we had a quilting workshop that was in person at our shop and used all repurposed textiles, and some of them were donated materials that had actually gone to Sharon's attic, and then we took some things that they couldn't necessarily use or sell and used those along with other donated fabrics and supplies in our shop, and just really let the students pick out anything and everything that appealed to them to add to their quilts and showcase their creativity. You can go to the next slide, please. And these are a couple of other photos from that quilting workshop. And the one that's on the right is a finished quilt from one of our participants, Kat. And this workshop was run by our executive director, Lindsay Watson. And Kat sent Lindsay a really sweet quote after the workshop that I want to read to you. It says, "I wanted to say thank you for teaching me and for being part of my journey. My quilt represents a lot of things to me, and I'm so glad I walked through this journey of letting perfectionist tendencies fall away. For so long, I've always expected perfection to come from my hands, and I can lovingly look on my quilt and accept it for all that it is and all that I am." And I just thought that was an amazing thing for her to say, and really points to the larger value of, like, you know, it's easy to dismiss crafty stuff, but really what we're doing is re-engaging with our agency to take materials that are in the world around us and make something that we use. And that's a super powerful act and can also be really transformative for people. So next slide, please. And then our second in-person workshop was about, sorry about the text got a little weird there, but was our Sustainable Sewing Mending workshop, which also happened in person. And this is a group of people. We did almost everything by hand in the mending workshop, so it was super accessible, whether you have a sewing machine or not. And we covered all kinds of basic skills, how to fix different fabrics, and also how to be really creative and how to add decorative things as part of so you're extending the life of your garment, but you're also making it more your own. And a couple of quotes from that one. Sophie said, "I learned a lot about mending knit fabrics that I had no idea was possible. I will 100% be applying the button and buttonhole mending in the future." And Des said, "Everyone was so kind and helpful, and I had a blast every time." So that was I taught that workshop, and that was a really fun. And then this was back in the fall of 2021, and then we actually asked for an extension to the grant so that we could do some online programming, because the pandemic was still pretty much in full swing, and we hadn't been able, while the workshops were really fun and successful, we just hadn't quite reached as many people as we had hoped to. So we had an online version of the mending workshop. You can go to the next slide, please. And this is some some work for that. So yeah, so the extension was granted, and I taught another version of the mending workshop, and it was so fun. And some of the students sent pictures, which was really great. And that you may or may not be able to tell, but this one showcases a couple different techniques of darning, and then she actually crocheted a patch and applied that on top of part of the sweater. So there's just like a ton of creativity and a lot of questions, even though we were just meeting over Zoom. It was a really great experience. You can go to the next slide.
1 minute remaining.
Okay, perfect. And then this is another project from that, where one of the students took a top or dress and made it into a top, and she just added so much. Again, this is like all by hand, and I really love how it came out. And a couple quotes from that one. As Tracy said, I'm really inspired by what you do. I recently bought a sweater because I like the fit, but when I examined the label, I found that it is 95% polyester and 5% spandex. Seriously considering taking it back and making a commitment to avoid buying clothes made from these unnatural materials. And that kind of points to, I forgot to say, but we did a presentation on sustainable fashion. What does that mean? Where do fibers come from? And all that kind of thing as part of all these workshops. And so we were able to pass on a lot of really basic info as well. And I know we're about to run out of time. So the last slide is the last thing that we did, which is we made an online tutorial about sustainable quilting that Lindsay made. Lindsay did all the illustrations and everything, and then I helped make it into a tutorial, and we shot little videos for it. And that will live online forever, and is forever being relative, but is a super accessible way that anyone can download it for just a small donation to our organization, and can learn a little bit and just like start on their own with their making a sustainable quilt. And I really want to say thank you to everybody at the commission, because especially without this grant funding, we would not have been able to offer scholarships. And we were able to offer full scholarships for all these programs, which community members definitely took advantage of that. And it was just awesome to be able to do that.
Thank you so much for your presentation. We are at time. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments for any of the applicants?
Yeah, I do.
Great.
This is Molly. This is just for everyone, really. I just want to say thank you so much. I'm new to the commission, and I've been kind of pondering the kind of impact that these grants could have, because they're such a small dollar amount. And I just want to say that, like, with the garden boxes to bring food justice to town, and the drought tolerant greens project with the amazing coloring books, it just like exploded. Like, that project just seems to explode and keep going. It's so amazing. And the recycling in schools, which is such a good idea to like fill that niche there. And the radio show, I just love how you've been able to incorporate many diverse topics that of course are included in sustainability, but not necessarily commonly thought that way. And the demo gardens at the Arboretum, like, I liked how you had all those diverse groups coming in, and that, you know, in the end, you even had to learn a little bit, and that for the staff to take food home, because I know oftentimes nonprofit staff don't get paid that much. So I think that was really a great addition to that project. And the sewing was so cool to empower people to consider to be makers themselves, and to also learn about the power of natural fibers. So just again, thank you all so very much. These projects really just warm my heart. And I do have a question, and I don't know how much time we have, and maybe you can just put your responses in the chat, but the amount of money that you're given, was it worth it? You know, because I know that sometimes smaller grant amounts tend to be like less bang for the buck, because it's a lot of work for just a little bit of money as far as reporting and everything. And so I'm just curious if that was a nice amount for you, if you wanted more to make it worth it. Just some kind of feedback like that would be interesting. And it's possible that Chair McCain has already considered these things and asked you this. I'm just not sure. But I'm just curious around that, and then I'll pass the mic to Chair McCain. Looks like he has some comments. But again, thank you all so much.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit more, and thanks so much, Molly, for sharing that. And first off, just you're welcome. Really, the commission is really proud of this project and the time that both the staff, especially Marissa, and the commission put into it. So you're very welcome. And I wanted to thank you again and wanted to speak each of your names again. And in doing so, really provide a big thank you to your organization and your partners. I'm just impressed. I think Molly had really great reflections on each of your projects. And just in general, I found them just very practical, accessible, and collaborative and significant, especially given the funds you received. So I just want to thank you again for your time, energy, and leadership. So Darian Banali, Oakley Anderson Moore, Darren Bingham, Taylin Belka, Jessica Esplin, and Tasha Griffith. Thank you so much for what you put in to these grants. And I wanted to give you an update on the grant. We have made significant changes since you applied. You might be aware of that. And one big change is that it really speaks directly to what Commissioner McCormick spoke to. We now have a limit of $5,000. So we've upped that limit significantly. We've also upped the total limit significantly. And one change we made is that we're not allowing organizations to apply consecutively. So because you all were awarded this grant, you're not eligible for our next term, which will start applications in September and be funded for 2023. You are eligible for our 2024 term, so look for applications in September 2023. And I know each of you have partners. Your partners, as long as they haven't received a grant themselves, they are eligible for the next term, and maybe then they can partner with you, and you can kind of keep connected in that way. So please share that news. And another piece is that we've decided to really do a lot more with our recognition process. So for the 2023 grant recipients, the grant process in 2023, we're going to have a larger public reception because I think I'm kind of bummed that all the great stuff that you've done isn't getting a bigger audience publicly. So I wanted to let you know that our intention and plan is to do much more with that in the future. So with all that, thank you so much for all that you've done. And I think Jenny has a comment.
I do. Thank you so much, Chair McCain. I really just wanted to say thank you to the applicants and the folks that ran these projects. Thank you to the commission as well. I know that this is such a time-intensive process for all of you, and it's just deeply important, though, to the city to have this process, to have you all as community members really, making these decisions. And I'm just so deeply grateful for your time, Commissioner. So to the project leads, I'm just so thankful that you're in our community and doing this good work. To the commissioners, thank you. And to Marissa, this is a big lift of a project. And so just kudos to you for your phenomenal organization. Thank you all. This is like the best day of the year for me to be able to see all of these things that have happened in our community. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Jenny. So I'd like to move on to our business item B, which is our regional plan activities. So we have Sarah Dector, Comprehensive and Neighborhood Planning Manager. So I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Chair McCain. I've put in the chat a link to the group map activity that all the commissioners will need to rejoin so we can complete the regional plan strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities assessment that we began discussing last meeting. I am going to share my screen in case anybody is joining this via a phone or secondary device. You can scan this QR code, which I will leave up for a few minutes. At the last meeting, we had a presentation that I provided you that went over a lot of things about the current regional plan, how we got to where we are, and what is happening with the regional plan update. And then we left you with this homework of going into this digital whiteboard that we're going to review together and rate the findings of tonight, and to provide a brainstorm about what you think as you're looking through the plan based from your seat as a member of Sustainability Commission. And thank you all for filling that out. I looked over those results today and I did group some of them so that because when you're doing this separately, you guys can't see what each other are putting in. And so I grouped ones that were like each other. So there was kind of a set of them about accountability. And I want to show you guys how to navigate that so that you have an opportunity to look at each individual comment in addition to some of the categories that I created as a result of your input. So I'm going to put this away unless somebody calls out that they need it. So before about 30 minutes ago, all you could see when you logged into this link was this brainstorm step. But I'm going to show you your completed results. And you should be able to navigate these. So if you wanted to see any of these quadrants full size, there's these 3 dots. If you're doing this on a phone, it might be like a forward button, or you might have to click the heading and go back. So these are the strengths that you found in our current regional plan. And you'll see that the fact that it's comprehensive and addresses diverse issues looks like it has a little folio or fold underneath it. When you click on that, you can see that there are 2 comments that were provided by commission members that I grouped because they talk about it being pretty comprehensive and having diverse issues in a way that felt pretty similar, but we don't lose that detail. We're just grouping them because then you're not trying to rate them against each other when we move on to the next step. Are there any questions about any of the strengths or things you would like clarification on with this step?
Sarah, I guess I have a question on access. I hit the link and put in my email address and it just gave me my responses. Was I supposed to do something different?
If you're still seeing that, it means you're back here on the brainstorm tab. So what you do is look across here in the upper left and you click on results, and that will show you everyone's.
Got it. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for asking that really good question. All right, so moving on to
Commissioner White has a question as well.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I have this up too, and my I can also see my own things, but the group and results tabs are both grayed out, I think. Oh, never mind, I got it. So, I'm sorry.
Yeah, shouldn't be. You should be able to see, I mean, I can see everything, but you should be able to see brainstorm, results, and rate.
Yeah, I apologize. There were a few different there are a few different results tabs, and one of them was thanks. Sorry for the interruption.
Nope, that's okay. And so these are the weaknesses that were pointed out. I put a big group of them together that I called accountability for implementation because they were different aspects of how the plan either didn't have ownership or could have had better ownership or better accountability measures to see it be implemented more consistently throughout the city, which is a great theme of comments. But they're similar enough. Again, I wouldn't want you to have to say which one is more important because they all seem pretty important from this accountability perspective. And there was more than one commissioner that sort of provided comments along these lines. The rest of these I left individual, and you can look through them. And so that was the assessment of the current conditions. And as I said before, I will produce, after you're done with ranking them, a report out of this software, and Marissa will get a copy of it to attach to your next meeting minutes. So you'll be able to see everything that you've entered and how it gets rated as we finish up this process. So in the opportunity side, again, there was some great comments about accountability and measuring and like looking at how we are reporting metrics about the plan, which I grouped together, and you could still look at individually. But then also some climate awareness of changing trends or things that may be different in the future than they were in the last 10 years to keep on the horizon about opportunities to have a look at those going forward. And then for threats, I didn't have any groupings for threats. I just left everyone's comments as they are. And these all sort of fit the piece of how do we make sure that there is consistent resources? How do we make sure that there's ownership in the plan? What do we do about political volatility or climate issues such as fire and other inertia or changes in economic growth that we may have to adapt to over time? So this is a great set of comments. You guys did a very good job. A+ on your homework. And if you would like to discuss any of them, maybe we can spend a couple minutes doing that. I do have a hard stop at 5:40 because I have to go to another public meeting tonight. But I'm happy to answer any questions or discuss any of these if you'd like to in the next few minutes. Otherwise, I'll move us on to rating them. I didn't see any hands go up or faces pop up. Should I proceed, Chair McCain?
I think Commissioner White, did you just take your hand down? Do you have a question?
Sorry,
Commissioner White?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't think I had my hand up.
Oh,
I took
okay.
it down. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sarah.
So if you're on a phone, you will have a little drop-down menu and you want to move over to the rate step. And if you're on a computer, you just click right here to the right. So what we're going to do now is you're going to rate these ideas from 1 being not very important to 10 being the most important. You are ranking these only relative to other ideas within the quadrant. So strengths are compared to strengths and weaknesses to weaknesses, opportunities to opportunities, and threats to threats. So you can, if you are logged in, I can see you guys are all logged in, go ahead and you see it gets this little gray bubble and you can click wherever you'd like along this continuum and start rating. So you can see, I can see that Chair McCain has started rating, and then the rest of you guys can chime in. And when you've got all 27 rated, then we'll have completed the exercise. And if we do it with a few minutes to spare, I can give you a quick review of the results. Earlier today, I did this at housing and they were racing. And they wanted me to call out who was finishing in what order. So you don't seem as competitive a crowd, but you know, if it helps motivate you. You can see everybody's at least halfway done.
Sarah, I have a question on the second thread from the bottom, and I'm
Sure.
wondering if whoever provided that might be willing to rephrase that. I'm not really understanding the phrasing. It's skyrocketing home prices.
Let's see. Margaret put that in.
Yeah, that was me. Could you restate your question? Jim?
Yeah, I just don't understand exactly what you're getting at. They are rising faster than the plan will be implemented.
Yeah, yeah. The idea being that the home prices are kind of out, like any effort to sort of curtail or to make Flagstaff a more affordable place to live for most of our community members. It seems like home prices are outstripping the pace of that. That if we're talking about a 5-year plan or we're talking about a 10-year plan, like where is this even going to be? Are the solutions that are being considered now even going to be relevant if considering the kind of astronomical growth that's happening right now in house prices?
Okay. Right, and I guess the other piece is that this, who knows what houses prices will be in 2025, right? That's when we're actually going to be voting on it. So,
Right.
yeah. Thanks.
Just a few more to go, I know. So as folks are finishing up rating, we'll have a couple minutes to go over some results and ask other questions. All right, I think we're at the last ones, knowing there's a little bit of a delay when it shows up. So here are roughly your results. As you can see, strengths of having a plan that was approved by voters came out pretty strongly. Let me, oh, sorry, cancel. Get this up to full screen again, just a little easier to read that way. And what I like about this is it not only shows you sort of a composite score based on the feedback you gave, but it also shows your distribution. So while having a robust and timely climate change section was a good thing, it didn't rank as highly, but you guys were pretty tight on where you rated it amongst your group. Whereas adding more bus stops is probably the most important thing to do, got a wider range of variability in responses. And 4 is a pretty small sample, of course. But when we do this with a larger group, we can get that same piece of feedback. So going over the weaknesses, there are more of these. The top 3 out of this is that accountability piece. That it seems that a document has it's a very long document and that there was little in the way of concrete strategies. I do always try and remind people that actually there were supposed to be strategies in the general plan, but council chose at the time not to adopt them. They were presented and the city council removed them. So they actually exist in the county's comprehensive plan, but not in the Flagstaff city version of the plan. And then the other one was any mention of restricting the number of properties going to speculators and investors that price out Flagstaff. So just understanding who's playing in the market with us, which I think as the topic that was brought up earlier, the plan is very comprehensive, but it's not omnipotent. And so there's definitely forces that are acting upon our community that are in our control and ones that are out of our control. I always like to say we don't get to choose whether or not we grow up. This isn't Neverland, but we can choose how we grow up as a city and what that looks like. So again, you guys weighed heavily in on the need for the document to promote accountability and have an increased focus and awareness at the forefront of the plan of climate and sustainability. On the threat screen, the top one is just fighting inertia towards development and economic growth that frustrates the overarching goal of well-being, especially when it relates to climate change, and then have a high chance of increased political and economic volatility in the coming years, so that we can understand how that may make it either easier or harder to implement a plan of this nature. So that's your quick high points from the feedback you were able to provide as a group. I hope you liked using this tool. It's definitely more than like, thank you for coming to present to us, hopefully, and gave you guys a quick assessment of how you're viewing the plan. We will be providing a report that summarizes all, I think we have 15 commissions between the city and county that are going to complete this exercise by the end of July. And I'm hoping by August we can compile a report that talks about what kind of variation we saw, where we saw areas of strong consensus, weak disagreement, and strong disagreement, so that we can present that back to you, possibly through a report, and to City Council and the Board of Supervisors, hopefully at their next joint meeting, so they can see what kind of issues we will be carrying forward into the first few rounds of workshops associated with the plan update. Are there any questions for me? I have a couple more minutes with you guys before I have to run away.
I just wanted to express my gratitude, Sarah, for the process as a whole, in particular for this process. It seems really an efficient way to get a lot of information. So just appreciate that you found it or have it, and I wish you, it also sounds like it creates a very, very complex evaluation process, and I wish you well with that. And as we move forward, look forward to hearing more about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll echo that and just say thanks for the interactive project. And I want to say, though, it would have been kind of nice to see what the other commission's feedback was. Like, it would have been nice to be able to grade them, because, you know, thinking about the city as a whole is really challenging. And, you know, because I sit squarely in the sustainability, it would be interesting to see what the others had to say and how I felt if theirs was more important than mine, because sometimes I do. So if there's ever a chance to integrate, that would be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. There will be, you know, I tried to tell everybody this is a first answer, not a final answer. It's getting that sensing, and then we can start figuring out how to take it into the next step. I think I had a conversation earlier this week with Chair McCain where I said, the point of this is to help us dive in early to difficult conversations. Because one thing we heard, and even I heard today from the Housing Commission, was that from a member of the Housing Commission who'd been part of the committee for the last regional plan, was we waited too long to dive into the hard conversations. And so it felt like they didn't really get tied off very well. So hopefully giving this kind of feedback early, even if you didn't get to see everybody else's answers, will show us where those areas of focus and difficult conversations need to be. And then we can have follow-up on trade-off. What I will say is that we're looking for the fall to be our first set of visioning workshops, and we're trying to have lots of them. There'll be like 10 to 15 of them over the course of a month or two. And so hopefully that will also mean commission members can all attend them if they want to without having quorum issues.
All right, any other questions? Commissioners? All right, again, thanks so much, Sarah. Really appreciate it. Best of luck with your next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we are to item 6C, which is the Southside Association Neighborhood Sustainability Grant Extension Request. And that's back to you, Marissa.
Thank you, Chair McCain. I did send this letter to the commission before this meeting. Hopefully you've all had a chance to review. The Southside Community Association is requesting an extension to their neighborhood sustainability grant project, in addition to doing some in-person workshops with the Coconino Community Master Gardeners. So really looking for input from the commissioners and a vote of approval or not. So I'll go ahead and pass it back to you.
Okay, are there any quick reactions or motions if someone is so moved to make one? Go ahead, Vice Chair White.
Thank you. I move we approve the extension.
Okay, we have a motion from the Vice Chair to approve the extension. Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Steiger. I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the extension forwarded by Vice Chair White, seconded by Commissioner Steiger. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to bring this to a vote. So again, we have a motion put forward by Vice Chair White to approve the extension for the Murdoch Community Center, and that's seconded by Commissioner Steiger. So commissioners, invite you to open your mics, and all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Okay, so I believe motion passes 3-1. All right, thank you, commissioners. And next is item D, which is the Grant Albert design budget. And we'll go back to Marissa to say a little bit more about that.
Can I just ask for a point of clarification for the minutes taker? So who was in dissent in the previous vote?
I think it was Vice Chair White. Is that right, Vice Chair?
Oh no, I apologize if that was, if there's, I was just a little bit late unmuting. I voted aye.
Oh, okay. So no one voted no.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for asking, Marissa.
Yeah. Okay, great. So the Neighborhood Sustainability Grant Working Group that was previously working on the edits to the grant, we're talking about doing a new graphic design for an Albert, our sustainability squirrel mascot, that was specific to the grants to help with our graphic design and outreach. And so we did want to make sure that the commission voted on whether or not to approve using grant funds for the design of this Albert. We would need to spend about $415 out of the $50,000 pot in order to have this new design. So that would be $350 for the design, and then I'm estimating $65 for one revision. So I'd like to ask the commissioners if that is something they would like to move forward with or not, and I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, thanks, Marissa. And just to say a little bit more, I think Vice Chair White was also on the working group. Our thinking was initially we talked about possibly having a special logo for the grants, just to give it to brand it a little better, since we don't have that real clear branding. And then I can't remember how we started talking about Albert, but then we found, then we remembered that we have little Albert and thought it might be a neat way to keep consistency with the different logos from the sustainability section and have something with Albert. I guess the graphic designer will try to tie in grants with Albert, whatever. I'm not sure how they'll do that, but that's what they're getting paid for. But I think our thinking was that it would be effective since we're expanding the program so much, and especially since we're looking to do more public recognition of the winners, that it would be fitting to spend, this is less than 1% of the grant, to create that brand that can be used in the future indefinitely. And Vice Chair White, did you want to share anything else from your recollection of that in the working group?
No, that sounds about right to me. Thank you.
Okay. Great. So are there any comments about that, commissioners, either pro or con, that you'd like to share? Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Steiger.
I think it's an awesome idea. Is there any initial ideas about what this Albert would be? I know because each of the Alberts kind of is doing a different action or is wearing a different outfit or something like that. Is there any initial thoughts on how that would be sort of separate from the other projects that Albert has been used for?
We didn't really go into that. I think we're putting the onus on the graphic design person, and I assume, Marissa, you can correct me, will it be the same person that has done the other revisions, the other versions of Albert?
It will be the same graphic designer, and I will work with him. However, if the commissioners have any ideas to get the ball rolling, we would really appreciate those. And you can
Absolutely.
let me know an email or however you like.
Yeah, and maybe actually to facilitate that, Marissa, I wonder if you could maybe send a PDF of the different Albert renditions that are out there. I know there's quite a few. Is that something that you'd be willing to do?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, that way we could look those over and consider something that might distinguish itself from those others. I think that's a great idea. Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. And Vice Chair White, did you have something?
Yeah, and I've been mulling this over, and this isn't a deal breaker, but I guess slightly concerned about setting a precedent of using money earmarked for grants for stuff other than grants. I know it's a very, very small part of it, but I'm part of me is stuck on that, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds like you're a little uncomfortable since the money was specifically granted for the grant to use even a little bit for kind of something for the grant program itself rather than to actually give to grantees, sounds like.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think my response is that I think this serves the program in the longer run. This is certainly the first time we've done it, and I guess we're thinking about possibly using some of the money for reception as well, which would be additional money. But personally, I think I guess it's like 0.8% of the total sum. For me, I'm comfortable putting that out, knowing that this is an investment, not just for this year, but I see this as an investment that we'll be making for several years as we have that better branding of the grant. So those are my thoughts. Any other thoughts on that specific question, commissioners?
I think that's a really good question that Vice Chair White brings up, and I don't know if there's any sideboards that the city puts on the money, but it seems like if we need to use the money to invest in the program, I assume that the sort of celebration event that's being planned will also come from those funds. And in that case, it makes sense to me to be able to use the funds to invest directly in the program. And I do think it's a cute idea, but I understand the reservation.
And I do want to add, and Marissa, please confirm this for me. My memory is that Nicole was shared. The proposal was shared with Nicole, and she was comfortable with this number. Can you confirm that, Marissa?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, that if it's been shared with Nicole, then that does help me a little bit.
Okay. Great. Any other comments on either that question or anything else about the proposal? Okay, well, I will move that we approve the NSG Albert design budget in the amount of $415. Do we have a second?
I'll second. This is
Was that Commissioner McCormick?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve the $415 design budget, forwarded by myself, the chair, seconded by Commissioner McCormick. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to bring the issue to a vote. So commissioners, I invite you to unmute your microphones. And all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Okay, motion passes. Thanks, Marissa. And do you have any idea of timeline with the, I guess it seems like we have enough time before our next cycle before we start advertising to get this completed. Is that accurate?
Yes, I've spoken with the graphic designer. They're confident they can have it done before August.
Okay, super. And I guess, and then we'll have a round of revisions. So do you have a timeline for them to get the first draft? I think that might be helpful to give them maybe at our July meeting. Would that be doable, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Now that we have voted to approve, I will let them know and we'll move forward to have a draft by July.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, now we are to our next item. And I was informed by Marissa that we might lose our quorum at 6 o'clock. It's 5:51 right now. And actually, Marissa, do you have any update on Commissioner Conkle? Do you have a sense that she is at least trying to get into the meeting?
I have not heard from Commissioner Conkle, so I would not expect her to join us at this point.
Oh, okay. So it looks like we have 8 minutes. And do we need, we have the item, I guess our next item is recommendations for the climate neutrality plan. And then our other item was staff update, future agenda item requests to and from. So my thought is that, I guess, Jenny, what are your thoughts? I'm thinking that it probably doesn't make sense to try and move into this unless you want to give us a brief summary and then a lead in for putting this on the agenda at the next meeting. What are your thoughts on that, Jenny?
Yeah, I can do that pretty quickly to then be able to present for the next meeting. I am also the one doing this staff update. So if you're okay, I will try and do both quite quickly, if that's all right.
Okay, and Marissa, just to clarify for me, the meeting immediately stops when we lose quorum. Is that how it works?
That's correct.
Okay. Great. So perhaps for to and from and future agendas, how about we have, if you have things for that, could you email Marissa, commissioners, and then she can email those either to me or to the rest of the group for to and from. Would that work for you, Marissa?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, super. Go ahead, Jenny. The time is yours.
All right. Hi, Commissioners. Jenny Neiman, Climate Program Manager. This is really a conversation that follows from after the Climate Ambassadors training. The Climate Ambassadors training, really we had actions in those 3 buckets. So individual, collective, civic engagement. What we wanted to talk about tonight was how the Sustainability Commission moves forward and acts as a commission, right? So a little bit more of that collective, and whereas that collective group is the commission. So we put together a number of suggested actions that the commission can take. This is not exclusive, right? Like there are a lot of other ways that the commission could take action, but this was really just an idea idea to seed the conversation among commission members, and that's really a discussion of for y'all to have and for us to support for how you all can support the carbon neutrality plan. So this was in your packet, at least this actions and type. We didn't include the details, but most are pretty self-explanatory. One really important thing here is that, so I have conduct outreach in schools, right? Or plan workshops and education events. We have presentations, right, that we give to schools or that we give to different community groups. So we can support this, not on an event by event basis, right? But we definitely can support this on a materials basis and resources, etc. And we want to, of course, support the commission in any work that it does. So really, I just wanted to display this so that you all have it, and I will point you to your agenda packet, the details information that Marissa sends out, just to provide a little bit more information about what we're really talking about. And it sounds like next month we'll be able to have a longer conversation on what you all want to do. But just wanted to kind of introduce the topic right now, and they're kind of grouped by type. There's obviously some overlap here, and there's again many other actions that you could take. So I'll pause here for questions before I head into our staff update.
I would like to make just a request of the commission, since we have an additional month to look at this, and I like the idea of having things laid out. I would invite commissioners, if you have specific actions that have life for you that aren't on this list, to send those to Marissa, and she can forward those to Jenny so that we can build this list up a little bit more for the next meeting. If there's something on there that you're excited about, that if there is something that isn't on there that you're excited about, please share that with Marissa, probably a couple weeks before the next meeting, so she can update the list.
Good point. Okay. Chair McCain, I'm going to move over to the staff update, if that's all right. Is that all right, Chair
Go
McCain?
ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So quite quickly with kudos to Marissa for putting this together. Probably most importantly, we are having Museum Flood volunteer events on June 4th and June 18th to help our Sunnyside and other neighborhoods, areas get ready for the coming monsoon season. I think we're all familiar with the flooding last year. So please join us on June 4th and June 18th. We would love to have you. There's 2 different shifts, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And please, tell your friends, essentially, and tell your families. And we hope to see you there. These are deeply important in terms of our resilience. We are so thrilled to welcome Sonoma as our Stream Steward AmeriCorps member. Sonoma is going to be working really closely with Friends of the Rio de Flag and the City of Flagstaff to coordinate the Stream Stewards program. She is a climate science and solutions student. We have hired a youth climate leadership Vista for the next coming term. They're going to start in July. We are still recruiting to AmeriCorps Vista, so would love your help. One is on equitable resilience to really work on the resilient neighborhood network, and one is on clean jobs workforce development. So if you just go to flagstaffaz.gov/sustainability, you'll find more information. We have started our business climate advisory group meeting. Jenna is leading this project, and we're really thrilled to have businesses able to help us and guide our carbon neutrality work. We've also been working with the Carbon Dioxide Removal Coalition. We were on Grist and the Hill and the Weather Channel last week, actually, which was really, really exciting. Really talking about how Flagstaff is leading the way on carbon dioxide removal. We were at Council for the May 10th Carbon Neutrality Plan update. Feel free to watch it. It has a lot of good information on our progress. Marshall Elementary School was in, and it was really incredible just earlier this week. We held a transportation workshop with over 30 staff from pretty much all regional agencies that deal with transportation to really talk about how we do the big shift and how we get that. I am also meeting with scooter share companies. All right, energy efficiency rebate program. We are making changes to that program. We also have gotten about 10 times as much funding. So it will be big changes coming through July 1st, and we will really ask for your help to get the word out on that. We have also launched the Northern Arizona Solar Co-op. We have already gotten 100 people to join or say they're interested. So we're really thrilled, and folks will have until the end of July to join and sign up. So this just gets more solar on more roofs. We are also working on the annual revisions to the carbon neutrality plan. I will be there at the next meeting to talk more about this, but essentially we are going to be adding in adaptation sections from the 2018 Climate Action Adaptation Plan into the Carbon Neutrality Plan as our major revision. We will also be working to update our greenhouse gas inventory and our projections for how we're doing. And so that will all happen really over the summer and into the fall. So we will, of course, be in touch with the commission on this. Now I've just only talked about climate stuff, and I'm sorry. But we are pushing through co-op and composter rebates, which is really exciting. We also have free monthly workshops at our community gardens throughout the summer, so look out for those. Tara Birds is having work parties at our community garden every Thursday afternoon. So if you're looking for other ways to volunteer, there's that. Residential food drop-off program is actually adding new sites, so you'll be able to drop off food scraps at the Aquaplex, which we're really excited about. And we had a really successful drop-off day last month. Whew. All right, that was it. Thank you, commissioners.
Thanks, everybody. See you next month. Have a happy Memorial Day.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
Y'all take care.